At some point, I suppose, I must have wandered away from the courtyard and gone into the warehouse, down some steps to an even more desolate basement, full of rubble and wire sticking out of chunks of smashed reinforced concrete. My beer tasted of metal. They'd set up the band at one end of a room with blazing lights behind them, shining straight into their eyes, and they were just warming up. The kid from the gate was striding around checking the gear and shouting. Drums, guitar, bass, but it sounded like a knife in your head when the guitar player slashed at a few chords, harsh as a teacher's sarcasm, bright and vicious. I left and walked through another room, empty, low ceiling with columns studding the perspective, and the light from the last room behind me. A cement box with a pile of gravel against one wall. The atmosphere of an underground car park in a rape scene. A punk came through the door at the other end and walked towards me, carrying a PA cab. Walked past me. I didn't have anything to say to him. His shadow passed my feet and I saw it stop. I turned and saw him looking back at me, the cab in his arms, big boots planted, shoulders behind his hips against the weight. He turned away and went into the room with the band, and the noise took him away. I kept drinking, the only thing I had in common with anyone else there. Drank, getting drunk. Time slid along itself at an angle. Empires of tiny impressions rose and fell in the space between blinks. I saw people I might have seen a moment before but still didn't recognise. I tried to keep a hold of an image, idea, thing, but they kept slipping away quicker and quicker. My thoughts were organising themselves on an unfamiliar plane, unreadable hieroglyphics on the temple wall. I rushed around these unforgiving scribbles in a panic, fingers brushing the impressions on the stone. I could feel myself forgetting what they meant as they came and went under my hands. I lost access to my database. I disconnected, let them run on, away. My stream of consciousness dwindled to a dribble. Music, sound and light and colours. A trifle of sensations I couldn't resist as I drifted in and out of different states of regret, lucidity, numbness and inattention. It was like ECT without the electricity or the shock or the therapy. It was like being in a heightened reality, except I was upside down in it, wading through the sky in snowshoes. I was upstairs again, drinking another Foster's, smoking a joint with Daniel, watching the people come and go. We were near the bar, just inside the first room from the courtyard. I didn't really want to smoke the joint. I don't know if this was before or after anything else. I don't know if we were talking about anything or not. He was off somewhere in this experience I couldn't reach, and it left me wondering what it was like, but not feeling like going there. He looked at the people coming and going and didn't see what I saw. I saw strangers and people who knew stuff I never would. He saw people who wanted to know him and what he already knew. They didn't pay me much attention. I figured it was the Fosters. I knew I should have brought something much cooler to drink, like Tizer or Lemsip. Yeah, or Thunderbird. I saw the tall girl again walk by. My head moved as she moved. She was wearing black skirt with black tights. Her hair was black. There was music pounding from speakers lodged in great cracks in the wall, wires hanging down and winding off somewhere. I watched her. Daniel smoked the joint. It glowed and shriveled as his lungs shriveled and his eyes glowed. People pushed and danced, moved around. I was losing it. The sound had reached a level where I couldn't hear anything distinct, just a constant roar. I was watching a storm from under the sea, waves breaking on the surface above me. Daniel disappeared again. I slouched off in some direction or other, downstairs again. Downstairs was more confusing. No shape to the forms lurching in and out of the shadows. Bare bulbs strung along the wall, shining right in your face. Glaring, burning patches of light. Shadows of people in black interrupting the glare, moving through, among. Plato's cave controlled by a mad shadow puppet master. The Blacklight Theatre of Prague could perform here for years and nobody'd ever know or care. I was having trouble seeing. I closed one eye to steady my vision. Just meant I staggered in the direction of my closed eye. Stuck a Marlboro in my mouth, tried to light it, the flame flickering as my hand waved around at the end of my arm. The sounds collided with my head. I was isolated in my drunk from the rest of the world. I said something but I couldn't hear it. I said it again, felt it vibrate in my throat, so I know I said it. I hummed to myself, a low note, reassuring. I stumbled into the yard, kept going, found some steps going up. The sound receded as I went up, bare cement, a reeling room full of rubble and plastic bags full of litter rubble. I put one hand on each wall in the corner and bent over and threw up all over the floor. It was brown and vile coming out. The sober little man who had treated to the very back of my head thought of the word idiot. The rest of my brain gave him some shit and concentrated on throwing up. I didn't feel better afterwards. I just tried not to step in it. I backed out of the corner along one wall, one hand feeling my way along the crusty wall, scudding the heel of my hand with tiny bits of brick and flaky paint, feet stumbling and slipping off the rubble. I may have said something. I tried to spit, but it came out all over my chin. I wiped it off and spat a great gout of spit and half vomit. Hawked and spat again. I stood there swaying. I probably promised myself something at this point. I had to. God wouldn't have believed me. I staggered back down the steps to the yard like a refugee from a Motorhead audition. Things just weren't the same. I had no beer left. If I looked at something, it wouldn't stop spinning away from me. And nothing I could hear was like anything I'd trapped and listened to before. I was betrayed by my senses and reality both, neither of which I trusted anyway. This was how Descartes must have felt, but without the puking. Everything was against me, even myself. Awful. I had drunk myself to a kind of death, a conspirator in my own murder. Someone put a strobe on in the room off the yard. The light flashes like an explosion over the frozen figures. I close my eyes and the shadows still appear as white negatives through my eyelids, cannibals leaping through the flames, black into white with nothing in between. The band have started playing and they put it through the outside PA at atomic bomb level. And the noise is a solid sheet of stuff breaking through the rooms and scattering the flash gun people dancing, caught in primitive shapes, grinning and screaming, still life ghosts, contorted statues bent in the hurricane of volume. I'm gagging on my own adjectives. My thoughts splinter and reform in a supernova monochrome kaleidoscope. I'm thinking of a single thing, but I can't make it stay there. I was flashing on the trip scene from Easy Rider and seeing how clear it all was now. My vision was a palette of smears and colours. My hearing had settled into a kind of droned coma, and my body had given up on itself in disgust, and my brain was preparing a lawsuit against the perpetrators above. I leant against the wall in the courtyard, drooling or trying not to drool, came to the same thing. This is dreadful, someone like me thought. I may never play the fool again. The small punk goes by, holding a flaming torch, like a Victorian cave explorer. The flames make a large noise. He joins a circle of demons dancing in the strobe amongst the shards of music, staccato devils, leaping fiends. I slip down the wall a little, in between the bars of light. Stop, start, a flipbook cartoon of the fall. Things spiral and descend. I'm pretty sure they'll pinch my specs and push me off a rock in a minute. It's gone. It's out of control. People are yelling in the tornado of the band. The motion, the light, making no difference to the shrieking shitstorm of it all. All sensations become one. None differ from another. You're dancing. He's screaming. We're burning. They're dying. Individuality sacrificed in the dance, in the tribe, in the. The little punk suddenly appears in a gap in the crowd, in a crescent of light, holding a sledgehammer. People turn. There's a pause in time, and he throws himself at the courtyard wall, deranged, a fury, smashing and clubbing at the wall, lumps and chips flying off. The hammer breaks and he throws away the shaft and lunges at the wall head first. The screams rise above even the cacophony from the band, and everyone joins in the demolition. Bricks fly, bars pass through arcs, people heave chunks above their heads with both hands. I try to black out for safety reasons, but fail at that too, inevitably. I can't be part of this. I'm not even part of myself now. Daniel flashes across my vision, my life, gaping and wide-eyed, jumping through the mob with his arms out wide. And this is wide, believe me. He is saying, yeah, as if it were useful, as if anyone could hear it. I can see the letters as they come out of his mouth like bubbles from a rising diver. He leaps over bodies. He's home. The kid stumbles into him with blood all over his head and hands and reels away. The air twists in the pressure storm from the shrieks of the natives, and the building contorts as they pull it down to spite themselves.